And on behalf of the board, Diane, thank you so much for all you do for Selah and especially for the Selah schools. What a deserving honor for sure. Thank you. All right, our next item on the agenda is the comments from the audience, and I'll read the instructions for those comments. We invite all community members to address the board on an issue or topic. The agenda item titled Suggestion or Comments from the Audience is for any comments related to topics that are not on the agenda. The audience can also provide informational comments on specific agenda items after being recognized by the board president. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Patrons making comments are asked to begin by identifying themselves. So, my name is Dan Peters, and then you can continue. Please appoint a spokesperson if the concern is a group concern. If desired, you may email written documentation to the executive assistant to be included as part of the official meeting record. While the board will listen to public comments carefully, the board cannot respond to comments spontaneously or without further deliberation. The board may direct the superintendent to respond to the issues expressed at a later date. Complaints about specific personnel will not be heard in open session and will not be part of the record of any public meeting. Harassing or derogatory statements about any persons or groups of persons will not be heard. Okay, it looks like we have 2 people that have signed up to make public comments. And I believe is it Don Klein? Don Klein is the first person.
That's just time, so I'll go over my 3 minutes. Still have 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, you do. So the people virtually can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, I'm Don Klein. I'm the pastor of Bible Baptist Church. And it would surprise, I think, most that I am not in favor of religion in schools. I think that's not good. There's too many religions. Which one do you teach? I'm not in favor of Bibles in schools. There's so many. Which one would you teach? I'm not in favor of Islam being taught in schools, although it is in many schools being taught. But I'm also not in favor of this woke religion being taught in our schools, because it is a religion. If you go by definition, it is a religion. And we saw a giant rainbow banner in the high school. And it had pictures, I'm assuming, again, I don't know these people, but I'm assuming that those were images of leaders in that LGBTQ plus movement, religion. And we're indoctrinating our children. This is my opinion, I know. I believe we're indoctrinating our children, though, in something that totally goes against God. Being a Baptist preacher, I believe that we should honor God in all things. And our schools should be a part of our community, and they are. But they shouldn't be indoctrinating. The purpose of a school is to teach, And when we are leading our children down these paths of not knowing a boy or a girl, you can change sexes, all these kinds of things, that's indoctrination. That's my opinion. And the Bible, if you believe in the Bible, I believe maybe we're all Christians here. I don't know. That'd be a good thing. But if we believe in the Bible, Jesus was clear of how we treat our children. And when we do things like this to our children, he says that it'd be better for that person to have a millstone tied about their neck and be thrown into the ocean than to treat our children that way. So someone's going to stand before God one day and give an account. So that's just me. That's my Baptist side. So we had a whole Pride Month. And that's fine for those who wanted to do that. Again, the big banner. I wonder, couldn't we put a great big banner, this great big beautiful American flag? Why not put a big old banner like that in the same place where that rainbow banner was? And why not put depictions of George Washington and Samuel Adams, Ben Franklin, Abraham Lincoln, I don't know, General George Patton? Why not put those guys up there? Why not teach our children the history of our country? Wouldn't that be a great thing? Have a patriotic month. We had Pride Month. Why not a patriotic month? Why not give glory to the nation that God created? Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Klein. Our next Our next speaker is David Husted.
Good evening. Think it's Husted, but that's good.
Oh,
I get that
Husted.
a lot,
Sorry.
so
Sorry about
that's
that.
quite all right. Hi, my name is David Husted. I live here in Selah. My daughter goes to the high school. Never done anything like this before, so I'll try to be brief. However, so I'm kind of going along the lines of my gentleman here that just spoke a little bit. So my daughter came home and told me about the flag that was flying at the school. Usually I don't have a problem with these types of things. I kind of just said, just get over it. It was not that big of a deal to me. However, I do just kind of want to just object a little bit to that. I don't know I don't know what look, I understand what the background of it is. I understand that we want to be inclusionary. I get it. However, we do have a whole month. There's a lot of other areas they can get this information. I just don't think that it needs to be in the school. Not that it matters what I say. However, my daughter is in the system. I pay my taxes, so I just kind of wanted to express respectfully. I just don't understand I won't call an agenda and be that aggressive. I just don't think that something like that is necessary, especially here in Selah. We kind of got a small group. Everybody can see it on the movies. Everyone knows everywhere else you go. The flag's flying everywhere. I just think that we can be inclusionary. We don't have to be exclusionary. I think that kind of puts some people, I don't know, it does kind of keep, I don't know how to say it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm not that bright. I'm a sales guy. I don't get into it. You guys are much more educated than I. I guess I just respectfully object to that flag that's in the high school. So something when she told me that it was there, I just kind of thought, well, maybe I should just mention it. So that's all I'm doing. And I think they get exposed to that enough everywhere else. I just don't think it needs to be here. You know what I mean? So anyways, I'll leave it alone. Thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you, David. We also have a written comment. Oh, sorry. Sure. There was a gentleman that came in late. I'm not sure if he wants to speak as well either.
I'm Daleen Ackerman. Just something that Pastor Klein said that I wanted to mention. I know personally a young man that goes to the high school, and a few weeks ago he came up to me and just initiated the conversation to tell me about the pride display, and that he had gone to the principal to ask if he could display a patriotic, the flag and have a patriotic display. And he was denied because that might make some people feel uncomfortable. So how come it's okay to make some people feel uncomfortable with this display, but we can't make other people feel uncomfortable with that display? That's not equity. So I think we need to be really careful of the road we want to go down here and the precedent we want to set. And if we're going to talk about equity inclusion, how come we can't include patriotic kids who are proud to be an American and want to display that? Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Daleen. Is there anybody else that we have on? Thank everyone for coming here this evening. I'll read now the written statement. This is from Jeremy Hines. Mr. Hines writes, iReady test scores are below 25% for mid-grade level or above at the end of the school year and have been since the 2021-22 school year. I met with Hunter's system on 6/20/2025, and while he was quick to point out that SBAC testing has been downgraded by the state, he was not willing to say the Board of Educators that determined grade level readiness in the iReady test was incorrect. The iReady test scores in grades 1 through 8 have been super low for a few years now, since 2021-22 school year. The Federal Department of Education did a study with live MRI testing in 2012, showing that learning was directly linked to handwriting. 2012 would have been under President Obama. In the study, the areas of the brain responsible for learning lit up with handwriting, but did not light up when information was typed or simply listened to. The Selah School District appears to have gone all in on issuing one Chromebook per student, particularly in the upper grade levels, which have the worst iReady test scores. Mr. Sissom said that my student shouldn't have been using his Chromebook except for the very last step in writing papers, but my experience is contrary. Mr. Sissom said he'd look into that, but I have not heard from him. My theory is that the dismal test scores at Selah School District compared to much higher test scores from other districts in ESD 105 that teach handwriting are likely due to SSD not teaching handwriting. Selah used to have the best test scores in ESD 105. However, since scores started plummeting in the 2021-22 school year, SSD is no longer the best failing business in the educational service district. Also of note, while the rest of the state is trending higher each year in test scores, SSD continues to fall lower and lower year over year. Okay, that is our suggestions from comments for the audience. We'll move on to the approval of the meeting minutes. These are from two meetings, 6/12/25, the study session we had earlier this month, and 5/29/25, the business meeting we had in May. I will move to approve the board meeting minutes. Is there a second? Any comments or questions about the meeting minutes? Good. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain? All right, the meeting minutes pass. We move on now to the consent agenda. And we will take these as we do, as we have been as one item to vote on here at the end, but I'll go through the Human Resources action sheet is the first item on the agenda. Is there anything we need to look at there, Chris, in particular?
I just wanted to highlight that we continue to have a very low number of resignations and retirements. Once again, this month, on a good note, though, we've had several positions that we needed to fill, and we are down to 6 positions that still need to be filled. So our shout out to our building principals and directors. They've just done a great job getting on the hiring process early. So we're good about that. That gets us high quality folks coming in. So that's all I have to say on the.
Great, thank you. I want to make a quick note. First of all, we work a lot with administrators as a school board, and we're definitely going to miss Jeff Cochran, the Director of Future Learning, as he moves on to a position at the ESD. And I want to make a special point of acknowledging the many years of service, the decades of service that Mark Galloway gave to the Selah School District as the principal of the Selah Middle School. Mark's a baseball fan, and I think of Alvin Davis as Mr. Mariner, and I think of Mark Galloway as Mr. Selah Middle School, or maybe even Mr. Spartan. Can we call him that still? He goes back, I think, to Spartan days at the middle school. Helped bring that school into its new building seamlessly. And in fact, when I met with him this year, he said he had one of his best years he's ever had at Selah Middle School. So we absolutely thank Mark. And I'll say I thank Mark, and I wish him the best in his new position at Educational Service District.
And absolutely, we would agree with your sentiments there, Dan. He's done a tremendous job for the school district. I've worked with him for 25 years. And Jeff also has just done a wonderful job as well. So we're going to miss both of them.
All right, we will, oh, sorry.
I just want to publicly thank Lori Davenport there at SIS. She was particularly kind to my wife, as my wife worked there this last year, someone who my wife would come home and talk about. And so, yeah, we need more people like her in the district.
Thanks, Derek.
Excellent. All right, on next, any other comments on, all right.
No.
Excuse me, next item is payroll goods and services for June of 2025. Chris, is there anything here that we need to draw our attention to?
Just a couple highlights. First one being the Gov Connection. Just so you know, we buy on state contract, we buy our, or actually we work with them on one of our subscriptions, which is Microsoft. So that's our Microsoft renewal for $21,524 for the school district for the 25-26 school year. Also let's see here. I just wanted to point out Raptor Technologies. That's our safe visitor program that we use in our schools to make sure that we have a good, secure place for us to check backgrounds before folks are allowed to enter the building. So that's going to be, we're moving away from student visitor to Raptor, which does a similar thing for us.
That's,
Yep.
they send me emails like 3 times a day. Does anybody else get Raptor? I didn't know what it was, so I'm glad now that I know what Raptor technology.
And the last highlight I would make is the payment to 70 Construction. As a reminder, these payments to 70 Construction are for the refrigerator freezer unit behind John Campbell. Since we moved to the all kids eat at no cost, our storage is running short. So we're using program money in the nutrition program to build that container. So 70 Construction won the bid. So that's why you'll see some expenditures going out to 70. And they'll be done with that project pretty quickly. They've done a tremendous job on it. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to item D under the consent agenda, which is a second reading and adoption for a number of, what do we call these here? Policies, I guess, from 2020, which is course design, selection, and adoption of instructional materials, 2021 library information and technology programs, 2230 transition to kindergarten, 5011 sexual harassment and district staff prohibited, 3206 pregnant and parenting students, 5012 parental, family, and marital status and pregnancy or related conditions of staff, and 6022 minimum fund balance. Maybe I'll pause here and ask if there's any questions or statements from the board.
The only one I have question about is 6022, so the fund balance. We have talked about increasing that. Would this be the appropriate time to make that change, or do we need to do something else?
I think we should probably wait until the budget's adopted. The change to the policy this time around is just to clarify that the expectation is that that minimum fund balance is met at year end, because as we all know, cash flow happens during the year, so you don't always have. We've been fortunate enough, we're fiscally sound, so we've been over the 8% all year long, but there could be years where we dip under the 8% during the year, depending on where we're at. But I would recommend something that we consider after the budget presentation next meeting.
All right, good catch. Thank you, Derek. Item E is a first reading policy update for 5010 non-discrimination and affirmative action and 3210 non-discrimination. These are revisions, I believe, to existing policies, not adoptions to of new policies. And the board has a chance to take a look at those. The item F is an overnight travel request. This, I think, is an annual request that comes up for the ASB executive leadership team. This year, it looks like they're going with Val Barnett. Is that who the leader is for it? They're heading to the Lazy F Camp, which a camp I visited as a kid. Great spot to go to get some kids some leadership training and some bonding for our ASB executive leadership team. And then we have a number of contracts in the consent agenda. The first is the associate superintendent contract. The second is the executive director for student learning contract. The third is executive director for human resources contract. The fourth is the executive director for special services contract. And maybe we can stop there. We have a chance to ask questions or add any comments. Chad, is there anything we need to know about those contracts or?
Only if, the board has additional questions. I would just say that we're at the table with all of our association groups other than SCA, the Teachers Association, which will be back at the table with them next spring. So all of our classifieds or certified administrators are all, the contracts being proposed to the board tonight have been ratified by the other group. So they voted and approved the conditions outlined for you to consider. And all three of those are 3-year agreements, which 3-year contracts negotiations is really the gold standard. It's where the district has enough time to predict the future and make plans accordingly, good or bad, depending on what happens and what's provided from the legislature. And then the co-curricular was in the fall. We actually had a 4-year, which is a bit unheard of, but we were fortunate to do that with our new athletic director to create some stability with those coaches too. So, but if you have particular questions, I'm happy to answer.
So some of what you're referring to are items L and M, just to keep the board kind of up on it here. That's the Selah Educational Support Personnel, or SESP. What role would those personnel serve in our schools?
Yes, SESP includes all of our paraeducators, and all of our bus drivers and all of our year-round custodians.
Excellent. And the other contract that's been approved and is waiting for our approval of the consent agenda is the SEOP, or the Selah Educational Office Personnel, and that I think kind of defines itself. There is also here item K, which is the Administrators Group 2025-2028 Memorandum of Understanding. This is, I believe, also an annual approval,
Their
or
contracts.
every 3 years, excuse me?
Yeah, their contracts come back for their tenure each year. But this is a 3-year agreement with them as well.
And this creates an administrative salary schedule along with other items on that.
It does. They're MOU because they're not a unionized represented group. So that's the difference in the terminology. Yes.
Great. Okay, so that we can open this up a little bit more, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. And is there any comments or questions on any item on the consent agenda? We've covered a few of them. Good. Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? And abstentions? Excellent. We'll move on now to, this is a public hearing of Title VI, Native American Education for 2025-2026 activities. And this is like when we have a budget open hearing. This is sort of like a mini board within the board meeting, where we are applying for, I guess you would say, Christy, a designation as a Title VI Native American Education. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this program and why we're hoping to proceed with this?
Yeah, so this Title VI is a formula funded grant that is established to help Native American students, whether it's culturally, language, academic needs. So it's extra funding based on those that qualify. So currently the district has 79 American Indian Alaska Native students, and out of that 79, we received, prior to the application of the grant for next year, we received 16 Ed 506 forms, which is the requirement to be counted in that formula funding. And so that form also has to be accompanied by an enrollment card or a CDIB card. And so the quantum blood card or certificate degree of Indian blood. So that those two documents have to come along with that as well. Since we submitted the grant, we are now up to 22 of those forms. So it's a one-time form that parents fill out that we can carry over from year to year. So that formula funding will go up as we get more of those forms in. With the 16 students, we generated just over $5,000 for next year. Part of that grant, we have to have a parent advisory group. And so we met to review the grant in November, and then we met in April to create bylaws or kind of adopt bylaws and an interim chairperson to try to get all of that signed and ready for the grant. And then next fall, we will do a formalize voting of chairperson. We have to have tribal representation on that committee as well, which we had in April. We also need to identify an objective that is approved by the grant. There's some options there that I think are in the documentation. Out of the 8, I think our group chose increased knowledge of cultural identity and awareness. So that is what we're going to focus on. We will decide an activity first thing in the fall. And under that, it could be anything from like a field trip or some kind of camp or experience, depending on the data and what our Native American Parent Advisory Group decides on. So all of that the activities will actually be pushed off to the fall. Because we needed to get our bylaws done. So today, you have the bylaws to approve and then moving forward with the grant as such. And So I guess I'm not sure if you guys have questions on the grant.
Questions from the board?
Question. So really the only question as I reviewed everything is what is the possibility that this is going to move from grant status to school funded status in the future? Because that's the only thing that makes me nervous. I looked through it. I looked through the other presentation that you're giving. I just don't want to commit to programs that eventually we're going to have to fund out of pocket if we're not getting funding elsewhere.
Yeah, it wouldn't because it's formula funded. It's based on our Native American count. And it is our parent committee that really is deciding on the activity and the expenditures. And so it would be, because we have 79 K-12, we might have to do a focus of high school or a focus of elementary. And so it wouldn't be something that would be pushed off to the buildings.
And ultimately, what do you see the group doing?
The group of parents or students?
The parent. Because that's what we have. Right?
Yeah, so the parent group is really will be ran similar to a migrant PAC group that we've had established for quite a few years. And so the group themselves will meet beginning and end of the year to really decide on the activities, what we want to really spend that money on based on data, based on need that they're seeing in their own students. And so that's the goal, is to really plan out how are we going to spend the funds and what activity are we going to do to fulfill the objective that they chose.
And Christy, have we had an increase in the number of Native American students? How did this come about that this became some new thing that we're working on?
Yeah, good question. It actually started with the STI curriculum and getting that going, and that supplemental curriculum established with that committee. When we brought on tribal consultation with that and working with our parent group with that, parents really said, what about, because a lot of our parents are moving from, off the tribal land. They're coming into Selah, so they know this exists in the lower valley and on tribal land. And so so a lot of them really were wanting to know why don't we have it? If we're having STI, why don't we have Title VI grant? So we pursued it right after that, and we put it off for a year due to just some complications of that 506 form, and we had to have a minimum of 10. And so so now we have over that 10 minimum, and we're moving forward for next year.
Is there a chance that this will allow us to identify more Native students in our schools?
Yeah, and there is actually a presentation with our that is pretty common from a guy in Wapato about how our school informational systems really do kind of skew that data, because it's hard to find Native American students if they go into our system as a multi-race student. And so so really it's trying to clean up that a little bit to really get that message out there that if you are enrolled, if you have a CDIB card, that you really could benefit from our Title VI program. And so it is really just to get that message out there and clean up that data in our informational system.
Great, thank you. There's a time here for public comment. If anyone would like to make a public comment as part of this hearing. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, I think we'll vote on this then. I'll move that we approve the Title VI Native American Education 2025-26 activities as presented to the board. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Any comments or questions? All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed with a nay. And abstentions? Great. Thank you for this, Christy. We really appreciate the work you've done on that. All right, we are moving on now to the administration portion of our agenda, which has a good number of things on here. A through F are definitely something we do every year. I recognize a lot of these. Resolution 2025-5 through 25-10 are authorization for warrant signatures, authorization to invest funds, designation of a district agent, authorization of facsimile signatures, authorized signatory, and designation of auditing officers. These are fairly routine. Is there anything we want to add to it, Chris?
Yes, these resolutions are required by the county auditor's office or county auditor's office. And so they do come back to the board every year. That typically most of these involve my signature, Kevin's signature, as authorized in the resolution. So they're pretty self-explanatory. And again, they come back to you every year. So we recommend approval.
Great. Can we take A through F all in one and then we'll do G separately? So I will move that we approve the administration resolutions 25-5 through 25-10. Is there a second? Great. Any comments or questions about these resolutions? Okay. All those in favor of approving signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed with a nay. And abstentions? Okay, great. We'll move on now to the superintendent contract. This is a contract that is for Superintendent McKay. This is a renewal. We've already had some discussion at previous board meetings, which is this is an extension of one additional year, I believe, onto the contract that you've had. The changes, as I understand them, are the inflationary price index is included in this, and the option for additional days for working on weekends. That's the only changes, if I understand it, to the contract that you've been working under.
That is correct. It has to do with a lot with the first part of the extension of another year changes the dates that are identified within the contract that signify the number of years. And then the second part is educational employees approved by our state legislature were provided a 2.5 IPD.
Which is kind of a COLA.
COLA in a way, yeah. And so that 2.5 is reflected. So any change in the salary is reflected by that 2.5. And then the other part is, I think you realize that I spend a tremendous amount of time on holidays, weekends, working with school-related business of what's transpired. And these are optional, and these are in case of situations. That doesn't mean they're going to be used. I may not use any of them, but it does give me the ability to be compensated for time that would be spent on holidays and or weekends. And those are the only changes to the contract. Any change to a contract has to come to you. So anything that's changed, even if it's just a date or a piece of language that doesn't mean anything having to do with money. It is a revision to the contract that you've already approved. So now this is new language within the contract that needs to be reapproved by you. Similar to the contracts that you already approved in the consent agenda. Any change in those contracts needs to have board approval.
Great, thank you. I will move that we approve the superintendent contract for 2025 through 2028. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. Any comments or questions? Derek?
I just had a couple of items for clarification. Under item 6, and I know this isn't a change, and I'm not anticipating anything here, but it says at the end of that paragraph that the district shall pay the superintendent the equivalent of 12 months. And at the end of that sentence, it says death. So does that mean if you pass away that we pay 12 months of separation? I didn't quite understand that. So this is like the last sentence of item number 6.
I don't believe that's the intent of that language, that if I die, you'd pay the remaining 12 months of the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was reading through that and I'm like, that's not real clear.
You know, and I will say this is language that has been in the contract ever since I was hired here. This has not changed. So I can do a little review on that to get a little better understanding of that and pass that information on. But my interpretation of that would not, what you just said, would not be compensating for 12 months upon my death.
Okay.
I don't like talking about that, but you know,
Yeah, I know.
understand where you're coming from.
It was just a question that I had when I was reading through it. So, and then the other comment that I had was, I know that really it says in here that we're supposed to go through the superintendent employees approach us with issues and problems. One thing that just as a board member, I do have people in the community, even just this Saturday, I see them, they talk to me, and teachers in particular, and they'll say that they're afraid to approach any administrator in the district out of fear of retribution. And so I know that I probably step on your toes at times in that regard, and it probably doesn't make me well liked. But I also am concerned about that perception that whether it's with building administration or administration at the office here, they're afraid to raise concerns that they have at their individual schools for fear of retribution. And that has come from several different people at different times. And so I guess maybe a little bit of defense from myself, and that's why I sometimes talk to people and don't necessarily redirect them, because I understand their concerns, and whether it's real or perception doesn't really matter. That's what I hear. So.
Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor of approving the superintendent contract for 2025 to 2028 signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? And abstentions? Great. I'll just add, Mr. McKay, thank you so much for your service to our school district, and we're glad that you're going to be here. I'm glad you're going to be here. Boy, just keep up the great work. Yeah. We're moving on now to item 8, which is the student board representative report. And we do have a student board member with us. Claire, how's summer? I heard you're going somewhere.
I'm going on one of the overnight trips that was approved either this week or like a month ago. So we have 14 students going down to the National Leadership Conference in Florida for FCCLA, which is Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. So we're all competing in various events, and so hopefully we'll bring back some awards and accolades for Selah School District. So
fantastic. Do you have other things to report? I didn't mean to step on your report there.
no, I don't.
And 14, how many went the year before? Do you know? You've been before, right?
Yes, this will be my 6th year going, whether virtual or in person because of COVID-19. But last year we had 9 students. So and the year before that we had more, but we're building back up our and I think almost half of those students are middle school students. So that's really great that they're getting involved in that CTE education and really that really great CTSO experience at such a young age. So
And what teachers are going with you?
So we have Mrs. Brink and Miss Usini from the high school who are our advisors, and then we are also the school district paid for through a CTE grant that we got to pay for 2 chaperones to go. So we have Mr. Brink, who's a teacher at SAS, and then we have a student's parent who's coming with us. And then we also have a few other teachers who are going just to as guests to really help the students.
Well, my prayers are with your teachers and with your chaperones.
Thank you.
They really are. And that's obviously a testament to their leadership as well as your ability and your skill as a group and as a club. We're very proud of the FCCLA. So good luck when you go there.
Hey, one follow-up question for you, Claire. Is this the big event for Parker?
Yes, where we learn if he won the first ever national member of the year out of it's 270,000 members nationally. So.
And he is in the top 5, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Fantastic. Let us know.
Thank you. I
Yep.
will.
Great. And we are on the, I'll say this to everyone here since we've got a nice audience. We're on the lookout for additional student board representatives. We just had 2 seniors move on now to their college experience. And if you know any students, if you have any kids or grandkids or know people through people that might be interested in being on the school board, please let them know that they can apply at the high school. There's an application process, and then we kind of narrow that down and we do a scary interview with, it's really way scarier than it should be, but they sit in front of us and we ask them questions, and from that we pick. What's that? They have to be a junior, right? It's rising junior, I guess, to use the lingo. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to item 9, which is our Associate Superintendent for District Operations report. We have an enrollment report and a financial status update. Chris.
Okay, so first enrollment report, this is our year-end enrollment report. So we ended the year in June with FTE of 3596. Reminder that that FTE doesn't include our Running Start and Open Doors and TK FTE, but we landed at 3596. On average for the year, we're at 3602. So that's just under 17 FTE, shy of projection. So it's under projection. We prefer to be around 10 within projection, and over is preferred because, as a reminder, we are funded based on our year-end average enrollment. We get funded around $10,000 per FTE. So when you look at 17 under projection, that's about $170,000 that we don't receive as a school district. So it's really important for us the enrollment projection is probably one of the most important things that we do. We use that to drive what our staffing levels are for the basic education program. We like to get within 10. It's tough. I mean, we've got several years now where we've been within 10, but this one under projection, just shy of 17 is a little higher than, a little worse than we like to see. So our projection for next school year based on the cohort survival method is 65 less than what we projected this year. And that's based on what we're seeing in the survival rate from one grade to the next. We're seeing smaller classes moving through our system. So if you look at the enrollment, projected enrollment over the next 4 years, we're at a decline of just less than 2% per year based on the number of students coming through our system. Now, kindergarten classes, they're coming in lower and lower every year. I think most people know the birth rate's down, the county birth rate, and most districts are experiencing the same thing. So it's important for us as a district to get the enrollment projection close to what year-end average is, so that, and we staff to it, because that's 80 to 84% of our budget is people. So if you don't get the staffing right, enrollment projection to staffing, then you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. So that's where we landed. Any questions on the enrollment?
We're looking, if our average for the year was 3,600, we would be looking at 3,550 roughly. At next year, that's kind of what we would predict.
Yeah, next year we budgeted 3519. More conservative, yeah.
And part of that is that as we watched the early enrollment stages of kindergarten, we saw less. And so as we got the time ready to budget, we did not want to put ourselves in a bad situation by budgeting more kindergartners that actually show up. So we bumped it a little bit even more conservative.
And even now, if we had a kindergarten teacher leave at this point during the year, it's likely we wouldn't replace them. So. All right.
On the other side of that, though, if for whatever reason we have a lot more kindergartners, we're going to celebrate that. And we're in a position where if there is a need to hire an additional kindergarten teacher, there's lots of people with teaching positions that I'm sure would be interviewing for that job. So we'll see how things play out in the next few months.
Great, thank you very much. Next on the item is the financial status update.
All right, so this report is as of May. I talked a little bit at the budget study session on where we're at this point in time at the end of May. So you've heard a little bit of this, but at the end of May, we are 75% through the school year. We've received 71.3% of our budgeted revenues and expended 72.3% of our budgeted appropriations. So we're pretty much on the mark there. We're a little lower than where we're at during the school year, which is good. Revenues always lag a little bit. Our apportionment payment actually will happen in June. Our apportionment that just came in for June is low. The state has shorted us in June apportionment, and we'll recover the full amount in the July apportionment. So we'll see that reflecting in our June financial status report. At the end of May 2025, our year-end fund balance is $10,069,000, which represents about $1 million less than where we were last year, which is what we budgeted for and we expected. Just for the audience's sake, one thing that we're proud of here in Selah is that we've had fiscal stability over the years. It's a challenge now for us and many other school districts with the way that the state funds us for salaries and compensation. We're seeing a gap in all of our classifications where they're not paying us what is a competitive wage for staff. So that's just one reason. But we intentionally budgeted to hit our cash reserve a little bit this year, and that's what we're going to do. We're looking at potentially hitting it again next year, and we'll talk about that more at the July business meeting. The other funds, you can see pretty much ASB self-explanatory. Debt service fund, we have our debt payment come up in June, so we'll have our last payment for the year there. Transportation vehicle, we're waiting on one bus to arrive, and we're supposed to get it before August. So that will be paid out and we'll be right on track in our transportation vehicle fund. And cap projects, we landed at a nice spot. We're still at a good spot with our donation from Mr. Rep is in there, and we've started our turf field project and the CTE edition as well. So those two projects over the next 2 years will take a good portion of that cap projects money. So other than that, that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
We make any money at our yard sale?
Okay, so that's a little piece of good news. We made $2,500.
Hey, nice.
Really not that we didn't have any vehicles in the sale. We didn't have any major equipment, but we are in full compliance of the statute that requires us to surplus property, which the board did. And we made it available to the community to come in and purchase. We do have a process though, the day before the public sale. We have teachers do a walkthrough early in the morning. They can pick up things for their classroom. If they're getting it for personal use, they come back at the public sale. We then have private and public schools can come in by appointment and look and purchase things that day as well. And then finally, licensed preschools can come in at the end of the day prior to the public sale the next day. And we've had quite a few of our local preschools come through, and it's been a nice thing for them. So yeah, so we made $2,500. We won't talk about the labor that it takes to run a surplus sale, but public kudos to Chris Harris and Brooke Lee. They both were co-leaders first year that they've led the process for our surplus sale, and they did a great job.
So
So
gross 2,500 is what you're saying.
yes.
Not that. All right.
Yeah, shout out to our custodial staff across the district too. We tried something different this year and we basically established a location at that school and then went and got the stuff instead of bringing it all here and then transporting it all back. And so it really worked. But what it did is it put a lot of onus on our custodial staff and maintenance team to do all the moving around. But it was, the parking lot was buzzing with people, as usually do on yard sales here very early in the morning, ready to go with trailers, pickups, vans.
Nice.
Yeah, all kinds of different vehicles to haul stuff out, and they surely did.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to the superintendent report. There are two program reports, I guess I would say. The first is state and federal program update. The board has a PDF, and it's available online as well to the public, of the 2024-25 annual report. This includes Title I LAP, Family Services Team, Dual Language, and ML Growth. Is that multilingual learner
Yeah.
growth? Right, exactly. Are there anything that you want us to look at specifically, Christy? I'm sorry, Kevin, I didn't mean to
you-
jump at. Okay, Christy, right.
We did, 5 of the programs that I oversee went through program review, which came out really well. We have 2 action plans out of the 37. So I'm glad that's over and was a very good learning experience. Then the LAP is based on our poverty rate, and it's a 3-year average. And so that's also a document that's posted on our website. And so all of our buildings will get that LAP funding for next year. So that's a celebration. It's much needed. It pays for a lot of our non-classroom certified teachers, as well as parapros that help assist classrooms. And so that's money that's well needed. The one thing though that I'd like to highlight is it is reliant on our child nutrition and educational benefits program, and that paperwork is coming out in August. We're going to have open labs at each school in the week of the 12th. And it is our 4-year renewal year, so we need to get as many students in the district to fill that out as much as possible. So, that'll be a big push in August to keep those numbers up for that 3-year average, and then our renewal in our 4th year. Then another thing that I'm most proud of is our multilingual learner exit rate. It's going up each year with our dual language program. So right now the state has theirs exit rate is 8.51, and this year in your document it says 6.74, but we just got 2 more scores in that we're passing. They now have an exit criteria for alt access, so those students who may have a IEP now have an exit criterion, and we had 2 exit this year. So we're now at 7.17, so very close to that state exit rate. And so dual is doing its job, and I'm just excited as we move through that program, what we will see. Out of our 33 that passed the WIDA this year, 22 came out of the intermediate school. And that means if they're exiting at the intermediate school, they're not entering that long-term EL status. And once you hit that status, that 5-year mark in the program, it's harder to get out because the rigor of the test is so it keeps going up. So so I'm just super excited about that data. So
Could you tell us quickly, or just define for us, what do you mean when you say exit rate?
so it is the amount of students that are exiting from the overall. So it's and then the other one that you see there is the student progressing. So exit rate is just who exited out of the overall. And then the student progressing is how many students in that program they may not have exited, but they made growth from one year to the next. So those
the
are the
exit
2
rate
marks.
are students who are not considered multi-language
Yeah.
learners?
Yeah, so that means they've got a high enough score on the WIDA to exit the program altogether. And they exit based on their language skill, but then we monitor their academics for 2 years after.
Great, thank you. Yeah, for sure. That's great. Any comments or questions? The district poverty rate is 55.59, is that right,
Yes.
according to OSPI? And fallen a little bit since 2023, 2024 to today, maybe as much as 7% or 6.5% or so difference
Yeah.
between those two. Okay, great. And that helps with Title I budgeting, is that correct? Is that the main focus? of
So
those
yes, well, the Title I is developed based on the census data, and we have to be over 40% LAP. That 3-year average for the poverty rate is what affects LAP, and so that has to reach that 50% threshold.
Great. All right. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions for Christy on the state and federal programs? Good. Thank you so much for your work with this, Christy. Appreciate this. The annual report looks terrific. And that is very encouraging. The multi-language learner group is really awesome.
And hopefully you had a chance to see the videos in there. They're pretty encouraging.
They
being
are,
able
aren't
to
they?
see
Right? Yeah.
the faces of the work that we do for state and federal programs. Yeah.
Very real. Yes. All right. We'll move on now to the athletic report. This is, I believe, Kevin, you've got a quick note on this.
Yeah, what you have in your packets is a report from the high school done by the athletic director there, and then another report from the middle school. Again, this is one of those areas that the board, after a number of years of reports coming to them in person, these are examples of written reports that we were able to get to you prior to the board meeting. Let's take a look at them instead of having presentations here at the board meeting. So I think you could see that it was overall a pretty darn successful year for our student athletes. Obviously, the accomplishments individually and as teams are noted there. I like from my perspective, I really like to see the participation, the sheer number of students involved in activities and athletics. We know that there is a direct connection to academic achievement of our student athletes and those involved in activities. Their attendance is better, their personal health is better. All those things are all rolled into one. So it's really nice to see the numbers of students involved. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me or to Becky or Kip on both of those reports.
Great. Any comments or questions on that? I see 525 total participants at the high school. That doesn't mean students, that means people that participated throughout the year. Could be 70 in football and the 20 of those might turn out for some track later on. That's fantastic. And it's not obviously the only way to judge how your school is doing, but it does say something about our school culture, I think, to have that kind of widespread participation in these athletic events, like internships. There are certain things you can learn in the classroom and certain things you learn outside of the classroom. And I think maybe all of us on the board are former high school athletes at some point. And we certainly remember those lessons that we learned, some fondly and some not, but we learned a lot from that. I'm glad so many students in Selah have the opportunity to participate. All right, next item on the agenda is the superintendent update.
You'll be happy to know that I don't have an update tonight, but I do want to tell you that you are moving into the first month where the board only meets once. And so there is no study session in July. Obviously, you have the opportunity to call a special meeting or study session if you choose to. Also know that coming to you at the July meeting, the focus of that meeting, with all the regular board related business of the district that needs to be taken care of, is really the budget. Yeah. And so again, we'll go through and open up a public hearing for those who want to speak in regards about the budget. But it also is a time for Chris and Stephanie and a little bit of me as well to give you a very thorough understanding of all the work that's been done in regards to the budget. You've had updates obviously throughout the course of the school year, but this is really all those are leading up to what you're going to see in July.
Great, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, I think, is board communications. Does anyone have any board communications? Derek?
I was expecting a lengthy meeting, so I want to make a brief statement. And it's regarding the display at the high school. I don't think it's any secret that I wasn't real happy about that, but I've also noticed the display throughout this last couple of school years, and I feel like they're very one-sided. When you look through the people and the books that are displayed a lot of times in those displays, we can say that it's not political, but they really only represent one side of the equation. And I think that we see that also in the enforcement of the dress code policy. We had an issue this last school year with the student in the band. But then I've noticed that there are other students in the band at the football and the basketball games in particular who are allowed to wear what I would consider to be social or political statements. And there's never any enforcement on asking those students to leave or threatening them to not being able to participate in those activities. I looked through the board policies. We don't have anything specifically that addresses the displays. We do have policies that address the posters and stuff that can go up around the schools, and I understand that we need to allow freedom of speech. I'm all for that. But I feel like with the display cases in particular, that we have so many good things going on within the district that we should be putting things in those display cases that represent the Viking values and the good things that are going on in the districts. One thing that we can all rally around is that we are Vikings. Whether what we believe politically is different, what we believe socially is different, but we all go to Selah schools, we're all Vikings. And there's so much good that goes on here that I feel like that's really what we should be displaying in there. And those displays can be updated regularly. And so I think the board should consider making a policy or directing the superintendent to make a policy that directs those displays to be to highlight what's going on great with students like who are involved with our FCCLA, or in our sports, or the teachers who win national awards, or like with Parker. You know, I'd love to see that sort of stuff as you walk into the high school, in particular, highlighted rather than issues that can be seen as divisive. And I made a post on Facebook, and the one thing that was very clear from the comments is that displays like the Pride display this month are very divisive, especially in this community. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be allowed to display those types of things, but when it's on school property, it should be things that are, like I said, items that we can rally around as Selah residents and as Selah Vikings. And that's what I would like to see. And just one more quick example. I did have a couple of students grab me after graduation and said that they had gone to the student, because I understand the ASB is in charge of that display, from what I was told anyway. The FFA had been denied a request on 2 separate occasions this last year. And again, this is just what I was told by these students, to have a red, white, and blue day for Spirit Week, and also to have a patriotic display in that display case, and they were denied. I think Daylene had said something about that as well. And I did have a member of the ASB confirm that that request was denied because it was deemed controversial to display red, white, and blue and the American flag in our schools. And so that's when I going back to where I started. When I say that these displays are controversial and not equally enforced, meaning we're not giving voice to all students, that's just another example that I would bring up in that case. And so I would just like to move away from the social commentary within our schools, focus on education. That's where I've always been since I ran. Focus on education, academic achievement. Let the social issues be handled at home. People can believe what they want to believe. Students can say what they want to say at the school district. But within what we control, let's just find things that we can rally around as Vikings and leave everything else to the home. So that's what I have to say today.
Great. Thank you, Derek. Sure, Claire.
I am serving as the ASB president this year, and I just wanted to clear up if there's any confusion. So the ASB is not in charge of that display case. That display case is by some specific teachers at our school. And the thing with the FFA, the week not being approved was not because it was a red, white, and blue day. That was because their Spirit Week, they didn't have their paperwork in on time. We didn't have a meeting upcoming, so we couldn't approve their Spirit Week due to legal reasons for the ASB body, because we're very by the book, Robert's Rule of Order. ASB has approved days for next year where we are having USA dress up days. And so I just want to say ASB represents the students' ideas, and so we can approve it from a student perspective, but it has to go to the administrative perspective, and we have not denied any of those related things. So I just wanted to clear up if there's any confusion around that.
Great.
I appreciate that. Like I said, that's what I was told. And so I appreciate that clarification.
And I guess if we have questions in the future, we could direct those questions to the administration at the school, or maybe talk to somebody who knows what's happened. Any other comments or board communication? Good. I'll just add my thoughts on this. As a school board member, I want to take a moment to recognize Pride Month, to speak from my heart, not for the whole board, certainly, but to speak out of my own desire to say love is love, to be true to my own beliefs and to my faith. For me, June is a time to celebrate the strength, resilience, dignity, and contribution of the LGBTQ students, families, and staff in our community. It's also a time to reaffirm a commitment to making our schools welcoming and safe for everyone. I'm concerned, I guess, because we know that LGBTQ youth face unique challenges. Nationally, over 40% of the Pride community teens have seriously considered suicide in the past year, and more than half report symptoms of anxiety and depression. Many struggle to access the support they need. Over 50% say they couldn't get the mental health care they were seeking. And these aren't just numbers. I'm sure you know these are people. Some are children, some staff, community members. They're reminders of how critical it is that our schools are places of belonging and not exclusion. For me, Pride Month is a chance to show up. Affirming environments save lives. Respectful classrooms, supportive teachers, and inclusive policies all make a difference. So from me to every LGBTQ student and staff member, you matter, you belong here, and I'm proud to stand with you. Any other comments? Thank you.
Well said, young man, well said.
Not that young, all right.
Well said.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? We will adjourn the meeting then.